What is up, everybody? Sean Sheehan with another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. And this weekend, the second biggest promotion in the world of mixed martial arts returned to their home in the Mohegan Sun as Bellator 274 goes down with a nice pair of high-level welterweight fights atop the card. Not a great card, to be honest here. This is one that's, for Bellator themselves, it's going to be hard to build up, honestly. Their last card wasn't great. Turned out to be, okay in practice, and I think this one might as well. There isn't much on the undercard, but the top four fights on the main card are pretty good. And I will run you through all of them and give you kind of a breakdown of every single one of them here as we go. Obviously, Bellator are returning to Ireland the week after this card. If I have my dates right, I must pack my bag to go up to that. Then they have a London card coming up. They have a Paris card coming up. So they have lots of good stuff. Although that Paris card, it was announced, I think Melvin Manoff was fighting Yoel Romero. So I don't know about that one. And the main event is Congo versus Bader. So that could be interesting maybe. But I'm really looking forward to the Irish card. The middleweight title on the line and the welterweight title on the line, which is very important. The welterweight title on the line, in London, which is obviously very important for the top couple of fights here, which we will obviously get to. But as I said, the undercard. Look, I suppose there's a couple of standouts. The first two fights are, Jonathan Di Lorenzo 1-0 fighting an 0-1 guy, another 0-1 guy. Isaiah Hockett fighting Theodore Makachu 1-2. There's a 4-0 Justin Montalvo against Cordy Samuels. Jordan Newman, obviously one of the prospects coming through, as you could say. I suppose Montalvo is. He's fighting Cody Herbert as well. So maybe the two of them are two guys to look forward to. Really like the fight between Deanna Bennett and Justine Keesh. I've always kind of had a soft spot for Justine Keesh. I think she's a good fighter, and I'm looking forward to seeing her on that. Bobby King, Avid Ghazali, Jalen Bates, Krista Chanel, Christian Edwards, Kevin Haley, Nick Brown, as we talked about him on a recent preview as well. He's a champion in another organization, if I'm not mistaken. He's fighting Amanda Nallo in the lightweight bout. So that's probably the standout bout of the undercard. But also the big one is Brennan Ward, who comes back and fights Brandon Bell. And anyone who knows Brennan Ward, there's a great article going around about Brennan Ward at the moment. He's had a tough time, I think, over the last few years with all different parts of his life. And if I'd encourage anyone to go and read the article. And I'm talking to actually a couple of his friends at the last Bellator event I was at, and there was kind of telling me that Brendan is looking in good shape and thinking about coming back, and now he is coming back. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he looks like. He's always been a staple of Bellator, and as someone Irish here, we were always kind of, we always have maybe a soft spot or maybe even a joke about the Irish American fighters, and he's one that really stuck out in Bellator for a good few years. So I always thought maybe it was a good time for him to retire at the time, or take a break away from MMA anyway. But I always thought maybe it was a little bit too early and a little bit more to give. So I'm actually a little bit annoyed he's not on the Irish card. I think that would have been a good fit. But look, this is kind of his hometown venue, I suppose, and he's back here, and he'll get a great pop when he comes out, and he is, I suppose, the main attraction on the undercard of this one. And he's halfway down through it. You never know, Bellator. He could be up in I'm recording this a bit earlier as well, so you never know what fights fall out, and Brendan Ward might be further up. But as I said, great to see him back, and I'm looking forward to that fight. So let's talk about the main card. I won't stay on this undercard for too long, because there's no point. As is always the same with Bellator. Some local guys, one or two good up and comers, and then the rest is like, take it or leave it. So there we go. I really like this heavyweight fight opening up the main card between Davion Franklin and Sowma. Now, for Sowma, his last fight against Vitaly Minikov, it ended, with that kind of dislocated finger. It was a weird kind of ending, but I remember looking at some of his fights before that, and he's one of these fighters who kind of waits and waits and waits for his opportunity. And at heavyweight, that's not something maybe you see an awful lot, unless it is, this big, massive power puncher. Now, he's a power puncher. He can hit hard, but he's not like a Derek Lewis or, a Francis Ngannou or anything like that. But he waits for everything. in that fight against Minikov, it was a little bit different. In certain fights as well, he can fight with a little bit more enthusiasm, I suppose is the word, although that's the wrong word. But the word enthusiasm for Davion Franklin is absolutely the right word. This lad just goes forward non-stop, trying to land shots all the time, trying to knock you out all the time. And sometimes it gets him very, very tired. I think Ty Hilton was the name of his opponent. I just watched the fight there a second ago. I watched a clip of it anyway. That was on YouTube, where they both got like really tired, and it ended by a technical decision because there was an illegal shot because they were basically both so tired in the third round that they kind of couldn't keep going. But he is an exciting heavyweight. I think he's 4-0 now in his in his career. And that's a really, really interesting fight, I think, in that heavyweight division. Because if you look at it, I'm ranked number 13 in that heavyweight division. That's how kind of badly run it is. Not badly run, but there aren't that many people in it. You know, Jake Hager, I think, is ranked like number 9, number 10, and he's wrestling 2 days a week, pro wrestling. So yeah, they don't have that much in it. They don't have that much strength and depth. And I think if one of these lads can kind of emerge, especially Sowma. I think if Sowma wins this, he will be right up there, because you can't, go in there with Minikov and go in there in another fight like this and win and put a bit of a run together and not be right up there in a division like this. Speaking to Liam McCourt, I don't know if that interview is out yet, or maybe it'll be out later in the week. But and if it isn't, if it's already out, please go and watch it. But she was kind of saying the same to me in her division. She's in the women's featherweight division. And, I kind of asked her about, what about Cyborg? Are you ready for that? And she was like, well, I'm going to have to be kind of ready because there aren't that many people in it. And she did say she believed she beat her and everything like that. But you get the point. Like, it's in a division like that, even someone like Franklin, who's 4-0, he beats Sowma. He kind of vaults himself right up there, because I'm not done with rankings in front of me, but I believe Sowma is ranked. And he's a good fighter. And if he wins that, He kind of puts himself in the main card as well here. He puts himself, I think, into a position where he could be fighting someone in the high up in the rankings and getting towards the title. Whereas Sowma, I think, like, if he wins this, he could be next for a title shot at Congo or Bader, depending on how that goes. And Sowma fights pretty regularly as well, or is recently anyway. So I think if things keep going well for him there, he could be in that mix as well. But look, I'll probably talk about it more in the betting show, maybe if I have this as one of my bets. But I think Franklin needs to get this one done early here. When you put out that much output as a heavyweight, when you have, every heavyweight's going to gas. So I'm not saying, I was going to say there he's known to gas. Every heavyweight's going to gas. If you throw that many punches, it's just about every fighter is going to gas. It's impossible not to. But Saeed Sowma kind of has the perfect game plan, or the perfect... the way he fights, his metagame is the perfect game for someone like Franklin, in Sowma's favour, in that he let Franklin come on to him and throw shots, defend and defend and defend. Franklin will get tired, and then Sowma will either pick him off in the 8, 9, 10 minute of the fight, or win maybe a decision, 2 rounds to 1, win the second and third. That's the way I think it's going to go. I think Franklin will be dangerous early. I think he'll tire, and I think Sowma, round 3 finish or something like that is the way it could go. But Franklin is very dangerous, hits really hard. He's accurate as well. That left hand, watch one of his knockouts there. He landed a beautiful kind of step-in left hand and then a right-hand knockout. Actually, it was up in the Bellator YouTube. It was like one of their shorts. It was a beautiful, beautiful shot and a beautiful knockout. So it's not, Franklin is not just a headless go-forward fighter. He can fight, and he can box really well. And I'm really looking forward to it. It's a very intriguing matchup. It mightn't be the 2 best heavyweights in the world or anything like that, but it is the attacker versus the defender and somewhat counter striker. Although he doesn't counter that much, to be honest. But Sowma is a very intelligent fighter. Franklin is an intelligent fighter too, but more of a go forward fighter. I'm looking forward to seeing it. A very, very intriguing fight too in the lightweight division. Georgi Karakhanyan fighting Adam Piccolotti. Funny enough, Bellator actually put up Georgi Karakhanyan's fight against Ireland's own Paul Redmond there the other day, and I was watching it, and Paul Redmond took Georgi down with a lovely judo throw in that fight. But anyone who knows Paul Redmond knows his top game is really good. His jiu-jitsu was really good. But Karakhanyan was, very, very well able to manage that situation. Was able to get on top himself. Was able to get takedowns. We know Karakhanyan's power. He can hit really, really hard. But I think he's kind of added a little bit more of a variety to his game over the years with a kind of a patience as well, if you get me. I think those are the best fighters in the world. Fighters that can do it all and are confident in doing it all. And patience comes from confidence in the MMA cage. You can't be confident if you're not patient. The other way around. You can't be patient if you're not confident. Just cut that out. Just edit that out there and get me saying it right. But and that's I think that's absolutely true. And I think Karakhanyan's you can't. He's fought so many times in Bellator now that you couldn't but be comfortable in there, and I think he is really, really comfortable in there, and it's kind of shown in his ability. Now he's lost to some very, very good fighters. Don't get me wrong, and he's was it 8 seconds he was knocked out against AJ McKee. Look, no shame in that either. The best of the best have been knocked out and beaten by AJ McKee, but he's a really, really good fighter, and I think Piccolotti is not too dissimilar, honestly, to Karakhanyan. I don't think maybe he has the power in his hands, or is maybe as like a straight up technical fighter as him, but he has some nice striking. It was funny, I was watching a Piccolotti fight, or a couple of them even, and you watch him and you think he's a striker, but then the fight goes to the ground and you're like, oh no, this guy this guy is a wrestler. This guy is a ground and pound artist. And for some guys on the feet, maybe they don't have the power, and they have a good technical game, but they want to have that power. Like, there's some fighters like that they fight in such a way. Like, I always thought Paul Felder was a little bit like that. Paul Felder fought like a power striker, even though he probably would admit himself he wasn't one. And he has even said it in the broadcast there recently, he wasn't one. But he fought that way. He got that one spinning back fist, and it was great. But then he was always throwing these big, high kick, big, hard knockout blows. And it never really kind of worked out for him. I think Piccolotti's a little bit similar to that, where he throws these big, hard shots. Now, he's a good technical fighter, as is Felder as well. That might sound like a negative thing I'm saying about him, but I don't think it is. I just think it is the way they fight. And look, if your cardio is good enough, which, Felder has had great cardio, and I think Piccolotti has as well, there's no problem fighting that way. If it works for you, it's a good way to fight, absolutely. But when Piccolotti gets the fight to the ground, he is vicious. Like, his elbows, his ground and pound, his control. On the fight I watched, Mike Goldberg was commentating on it, and he was talking about him training with Chael Sonnen, and you can kind of see that. You can see how well he kind of lands his shots, and how well how well those takedowns are kind of put into place. Whereas, Chael was always a great one for getting someone against the cage, making it tough for them, not letting them go and getting the fight to the ground. Piccolotti does the same, I think. And I think he'll win lots of fights fighting like that. But against Karakhanyan, it's a very interesting one. Like, Karakhanyan has good takedown defense, he's good wrestling. Piccolotti, it's mostly him attacking with the wrestling, but I'm sure he has very good takedown defense as well. Both good strikers. I think Karakhanyan has more power, but both. It's funny. The guy with more power fights a more technical game, and the guy with less power fights a more power game, I would say. So I'm not sure how that will actually work out. It'll be an interesting one. But I think Karakhanyan will be able to counter a lot of those shots that Piccolotti's throwing, and it could be one of these fights where Piccolotti is winning on the numbers, but Karakhanyan wins the fight in terms of effective striking and in terms of power shots landed. So, an interesting judgment. Hopefully, Big John is there, and hopefully he's on his game and calling it right. But with the wrestling as well, against most people, you'd probably fancy Piccolotti to go in and take him down and dominate him there. But it's going to be very, very hard to dominate Georgi Karakhanyan on the ground. The guy, he to steal a phrase from Jimmy Smith, he's like a fire hydrant. So, it's going to be tough for Piccolotti to do that. So I find it hard to call that fight, honestly. That's a very, very tough fight for me to call. Very much down the middle, and I'm really looking forward to it, honestly. I've kind of talked myself into looking forward to it here, but that is the lightweight fight. It's going to be a battle. The co-main event then, Andrey Koreshkov He was supposed to fight Mamed Berkamov, a fight I was really looking forward to. I think they were supposed to fight on another card as well that I was previewing a few months back, but he pulled out Berkamov, and he's been replaced by Chance Rencountre, who, you know, we've seen fight in the UFC, he's fought in Bellator and stuff before, and I went to watch a couple of Chance fights. Look, I don't know how you would describe him, really. I don't know how you would describe him, really. A little bit Clay Guida-ish, maybe, you know, very light in his feet for a welterweight, you know, throws a lot of shots, will attack a lot, but also he's one of those guys who he looks more like an attacking fighter than he actually is, and sometimes he will wait for you to come on to him and throw counters, or not even counter you, but kind of meet you in the middle when you're throwing shots, which against Andrey Koreshkov, probably not a good game plan, to be honest. Honestly, I think this is a favourable matchup for Koreshkov. Now, look, go and watch Rencountre getting the knockout here, but anyone who's watched Koreshkov knows he's a very, very well-rounded fighter. Improved in all areas. He's always been a very good striker. I think his wrestling now is fantastic as well. He lost, I'm not mistaken, he lost to Ben Askren back in the day, didn't he? Yeah, but I think, you know, anyone prime Ben Askren with his wrestling was an almighty matchup for a lot of people. Now, if he came into the UFC against GSP or something like that, maybe not them, but Koreshkov early days was kind of caught that way, and it definitely helped his career. I think if there's a takedown in this fight, I would probably fancy it to be from Koreshkov. You know, and look, if anyone is watching, we know what he is. He's a great technical striker, a beautiful jab, beautiful right hand down through the middle, power, defensively very, very, very good. You know, he's the type of fighter that I like. You know, he is just the straight up technical, basic, brilliant fighter. And, you know, basic might sound again like something negative there, but to me it's absolutely not. Some of the best fighters in the world are basics, and it's the reason they're good is because of the basics. There's nothing better than in MMA or in fight sports to me than a magnificent jab, and like Koreshkov throws his jabs so well, and I feel like Rencountre, when he does come in, you know, as I said, he likes to meet guys in the middle and fight them there and meet them when they're kind of striking. If he does that against Koreshkov, he's going to get a bloody nose very quickly with that jab. He's going to get a bloody mouth very quickly with that jab. And it's going to be a tough night for him. A very, very tough night for him. And honestly, that's the way I think it will go. I could even see Koreshkov maybe landing on top. Maybe Rencountre tries to get a couple of takedowns and things, but it's going to be very tough against Koreshkov. I just think his striking and his technique will be a little bit too much. Now, maybe Rencountre fights a safer game here, and that's probably the way to go, honestly, if you're him, because he is good on the outside. He is light in his feet. Maybe throw leg kicks from the outside, a few head kicks, and things like that, and stay loose. He's good cardio. Over 3 rounds, so maybe that's the way for him to fight. But even if he does that, I would still fancy Andrey Koreshkov to win it here. So yeah, that's the co-main event. In the main event, the history is made actually in this main event. It's the first ever 5-round non-title main event in Bellator history, so they changed it. This is the first card that's been headlined by a non-title fight. You know, they changed it at the turn of the year. And Neiman Gracie is fighting Logan Storley in a very, very interesting matchup. Now, funnily enough, sometimes I come on here and go, oh, you know, this guy has never really fought an opponent like his upcoming opponent, and you could say the same for the other guy. This is not one of those cases. Neiman Gracie has fought John Fitch, which is good, and Logan Storley. Who did Logan Storley fight? Oh, Amosov. Which, okay, Amosov is not exactly like Gracie, but you know, he's a very, very good grappler as well. And I went back and I watched all of those fights just before we did this, and a couple of bits of other things as well. And this, look, this is almost certainly going to be a battle on the ground. Now, watch it be 25 minutes, sorry. I'll have a kickboxing match. But look, Logan Storley, everything he does is trying to get the fight to the ground. Neiman Gracie is just absolutely happy to go. His second name is Gracie. Do you need to say any more? Really, really good high-level jiu-jitsu. Well, I'll talk more about the ground in a second. On the feet, I don't know, to be honest. I think Gracie is a better striker than Storley in terms of technique. But you have to remember, Logan Storley is fighting out of Sanford MMA as well, where, you know, I heard Ian Gary talking the other day about about training with him, and he's training with the likes from the jiu-jitsu side of it with Gilbert Burns and Luca and all that, but from the striking side of it with Ian Gary, with Luca, with Henry Hoofdis, his coach, with Kamaru Usman, Derek Brunson, I'm probably forgetting loads more. So I'm sure his striking has improved. So, someone's still very young in the game, even though he's fought at a very good level and fought the champion and arguably won that fight. I went back and watched it this morning. That was a close fight. Very, very arguable that he won that fight. So he's definitely improving, and he will be improving all the time. So it's not a case. If I was to talk about the striking matchup here, it's a tough one. It's honestly a tough one because I think Storley has power, and if he hits Gracie hard, I think he could knock him out because he's a powerful guy, And if his, if his game has improved, if his technique has improved, if his ability to use his natural power has improved, he could very well keep this on the feet and win it there. Now, Gracie has a good jab and he's a good 1-2 and stuff like that, but look, he's a grappler as well, but he's learned a bit and he's a well-rounded martial artist. He's fought people on the feet and done, relatively well as well. So, but I think everyone, who goes back and watches any of their fights and is looking forward to this, hopes it's a battle on the ground because that's where it's going to be fun. Logan Storley, a very, very well decorated wrestler in the NCAAs and all that. I think they said in the commentary that when he was 14 in high school, he was beating 18-year-olds or something like that. He was in 4th grade beating, seniors or whatever it is. So I don't know. I'm not from America. I don't know what any of that means, but it sounded good anyway. So you could see in these fights, he's a really, really good wrestler. And Neiman Gracie, he'll just go for everything. He'll go for arm bars, leg locks, omoplatas, all of that. So for Logan Storley, if you take this fight to the ground, you're really going into a bear trap there because Neiman Gracie's just going to try to catch you in everything. He's going to try to make it tough for you. He's going to, he's going to welcome those takedowns. Logan Storley's used to fighting people who are like, do not take me down. If I get taken down here, I have lost this fight. Not against Neiman Gracie. And Neiman Gracie is also used to fighting people who are like, oh, I can't take this guy down. I have to strike him on the feet. Now, maybe Storley will be like that, and he will want to turn it into a striking matchup. But I feel like he will try to be will be trying to take it down, and will try to win the fight on the ground. Now, it's a tough one. It is a tough one. Storley, apart from that Amosov fight where Amosov just made it really, really tough, and that was more wrestling, I think, than grappling or than jiu-jitsu. I don't think Neiman Gracie is as good a wrestler as Amosov is, but obviously his jiu-jitsu is superior to almost everyone in that division. So Amosov beat Storley to the takedown, if you want to put it like that. He didn't let him get the takedown. He got a couple of takedowns, but he didn't let him get it easy. And it was like the vast majority of that fight was Amosov stopping Storley's takedowns. I don't think Gracie will be able to do that, first of all. I don't think he'll want to do it either. So it'll turn into a very different fight. And when Storley gets into fights like that, where he is on top, where someone can't stop the takedown, his ground and pound comes out, and he has vicious ground and pound, hits really, really hard. Opening up a ground and pound though against someone like Gracie is going to be tough, but if he can get safe, can open up a ground and pound, he will win the fight, but he has to be very, very, very safe and not get caught in a submission from Neiman Gracie. So look, this is going to be a good fight in terms of a grappling matchup if Storley can't just hold him down and remain safe. Like, if there is transitions and many transitions throughout the fight, this could be like one of the fights of the year on the ground. It could be absolutely brilliant, depending on how dominant Storley can be. Like, every neutral watching this fight would probably want Storley to be able to get a takedown, be relatively dominant on top, but not too dominant. Not hold him down for 5 rounds nonstop. Like, if Gracie can get a few moments, a few submission attempts, a few sweeps and things like that, this could be really, really exciting. And as a neutral watching, I think that's what most people want. But if Storley gets it down and Gracie can't do any of that, it could be a 25-minute bore fest. But look, that's what you get in MMA and in big fights like this. So I think in general, a very, very good main card that I'm looking for. Not a very good main card, but a good main card with good matchmaking, I think, and a few exciting fights. 1 or 2 things from the undercard, not anything massive, but Bellator back. Then we'll be back in Ireland next week. I'll have a preview for that as well, and onwards for Bellator in this year. All right, I will leave it there. My name is Sean Sheehan for Sherdog.com. and I'll see you all next time.